Carl Perkins, Sure to Fall. Very much a country song. There was a point where you changed really from being country. Sam Phillips, I believe it was when Elvis left Sun
Right.
to go to RCA. Yeah?
hmm Before that time, Roger, Sam felt that he didn't have room on his small label for two guys singing the same type of music. Uh, so it was after Elvis left. Well, my second record uh, was a song called "Let the Jukebox Keep on Playing," and we kind of, as they say in the South, we kind of snuck in uh, a little rock song called "Gone, Gone, Gone." It was on the backside, and then my third record, of course, was "Blue Suede Shoes," and because I remember when he sold Presley to Victor, he said, "Carl, you get you some songs, and I'm going to let you record the way you want to, the way I think you do the best job at." But that song you just played, Sure to Fall, uh, was the only record. No, I'm mistaken. There was a cut on an album that my older brother Jay was singing with me, and he's singing. That was him there. A lot of people back then thought that it was Ernest Tubb, the country singer. They'd say, "Was that Ernest Tubb singing with you?" But it was my older brother Jay, who Jay was killed in the car wreck in '56, and that song and a song on an old Sun album called Tennessee has always been very close to me because Jay and I were so close to all of our lives, and it's the only two songs that he ever sang on. I always admired Jay's singing, and there was one time, at one point, that Sam Phillips was thinking about recording him, and he said, "If you just wouldn't sound so much like Ernest Tubb," he said, "Well, Mr. Phillips, I can't help it. That's me, you know." And but he never did put out a single record on him.
You mentioned Blue Suede Shoes. When you think of Carl Perkins, you think Blue Suede Shoes. Was a pretty revolutionary thing in those days, writing about clothes.
Yeah, clothes were, Raj, that was at a time when it seemed like the young folks were starting to kind of, I guess you'd say, strike out on their own. Up to that point, in our part of the country at least, and I think in the northern cities, the kids were probably more advanced, for lack of a better word, I'll say it that way. But down in the South, uh, Mom and Dad always bought the clothes they wanted you to have, and you know, the difference in the ages is
Yeah.
they just don't please you all the time. But we were all raised to believe that, you know, if Mom and Daddy said wear a certain thing, you did. It was part of life. But it was long about that era that the kids started saying, "Well, I like leather jackets, and I like to slick my hair back, and I like blue suede
Blue suede
shoes,
shoes.
bobby socks, and loafers, and the music was something that they could grab a hold of too. So it just all kind of came together there.
Right. Carl Perkins, Blue Suede Shoes. Tell us, I'm sure you've told it a million times, the story of your version and the Elvis version and the sequence of events there that ended up with Elvis having the massive hit version of Blue Suede Shoes.
Well,
Did you actually give it to him, the song, or did he
No.
pick it up afterwards, after you recorded it?
no,
I made it ahead.
I wrote the song, Raj, in about November of 1955, and it was not too long before Christmas that in '55 that I recorded the song, and it was released January the 1st, 1956. Uh, Oddly enough, the other side of the record, a song called "Honey Don't," was the song that most of the DJs around in my era there were playing. And like I say, this was January the 1st in 56. And then in about, see, the thing was out for about 2 months and nothing really happened. Almost 2 months. Around the middle of February, uh, a fellow by the name of Rockin' Robin up in Cleveland, Ohio, had an all-night, uh, a late-night DJ show that kids would call in, and he played Honey Don't, and he said there's something about a shoe on the other side of this record. I've seen this title when I'd play this Honey Don't, and he said he turned it over and played it, and the calls just really started coming in. The kids wanted to hear that song about that blue shoe again, you know. That's actually, as far as we know, that's where the song broke in Cleveland, Ohio, because, and as I say, that was about the middle of February. Then it was uh, around 1st of March, it really started taking off just everywhere, and by March the 22nd, it was a number one song in country and western, pop and rhythm and blues, which up until that record, uh, no record had ever done that. It was the first song to. A year prior to that, people were saying, "Well, it'll never happen." You know, Hank Williams was having. He was starting to get some pop play with songs like Kalijah and Hey Good Looking. And everybody was saying, you know, there'll never be a time when uh, all disc jockeys will play the same record. Uh, but this song did. And Elvis recorded this song uh, about the end of March, because I had this bad car accident, March the 22nd. I was on my way to do the Perry Como network television show, which at that point, Elvis or none of the rock and roll boys had ever been on television or network. Uh, so that knocked me out of that. I've often wondered, and we've talked about it many times, what might have happened had I got to be on that network show first. I'm sure it certainly wouldn't have hurt any of the other guys,
Yeah.
nor would it have hurt me, because being first in this business really means a lot. But Elvis recorded the song while I was in the hospital, and I remember very well. I was in a hospital in Wilmington, Delaware. He was on Jackie Gleason's show.
Yeah.
They had come by the hospital to see me, Elvis, Scotty, and DJ and Bill Black. They were on their way to New York. This was on a Thursday, and they were doing the Gleason show, I think, on Saturday. And he told Jackie Gleason, said, "I'd like to do a new record. One for the money, two for the show." And I like to jumped out of my cast. I was laying in the bed. I said, "Oh, there goes my record," you know. But I don't know whether it was the disc jockeys liked my record of it, or whether they played it because they all knew I was, you know, I'd had this accident. Uh, but my record went on to sell well over 2 million records. Of course, Presley really got a lot of play with it. As you know, he had it on what we called back then an EP. There was two songs on each side of the record. But he really got a lot of plays. And I've always been grateful that he recorded it. I've always, it's made me very happy when any of the guys record my songs. I know one of the greatest days of my life I spent right here in this great city when 4 young fellows called the Beatles invited me to a recording session. And a young fellow looked over at me and said, "Mr. Perkins." I said, "Son, that's my daddy." He said, "Well, I just can't call you Carl." I said, "I wish you would." He said, I sure would like to record some of your songs." and it was Ringo Starr. And I was in the studio when they cut Matchbox. Uh,
Did you play?
well, uh, I don't. I'm quite sure that none of it was recorded. We just kind of knocked around a little bit, yeah, before the session. George was asking me how I kicked off certain songs, old records, and we kind of.
Somebody's got those tapes.
Well, I tell you, uh, there's been a lot of memories placed in this old heart in the last 20 years 21 years now since I started in the record business. Uh, but among the high points of my life, uh, some of them came from this great country right here. And that Beatles session was one. And I first came over in 1963 with Chuck Berry, and Chuck had never been over here. And uh, at that point, I was pretty low in my life. I was drinking very heavily. Uh, I couldn't get a record to do anything. I I've just about quit the music business. Really, I'd got me a little farm, and I was just thinking very seriously of sliding the old guitar on the bed and giving it up. But I came over here with Chuck, and I just got revived. I didn't know that anywhere in the world the name Carl Perkins meant anything. And when I got over here, and British fans met me with little homemade signs, "We love you, Carl, King of Rock." I fought back a lot of tears on these stages over here, and my wife and family at home found quite a new man when I got back. I left here determined that I was going to get back in the music business, and I started writing a lot more then.